sex afflictions and porn addiction, a broadcast to help you create healthy sexuality and a great life. Today we're talking about hobbies, and I tried to think of a more dramatic title: 5 reasons why hobbies can save your life if you're addicted to sex and addicted to porn. Now, everybody who's been listening to this podcast knows that the sex and porn is always the symptom. Sex addiction and porn addiction is not a recognized disorder, and it is very important to treat the underlying systems. And as is critical on your journey is embracing this break a habit, make a habit philosophy. To break a habit, you have to make a habit. And the problem is, too many people are stuck on the break a habit part of the equation. And that's keeping them stuck. That's holding them back. This obsession around sobriety, which is like 10%. That is 10%. Not doing something is 10% of the solution. Don't get me wrong, a powerful 10%. On a different day, I'd argue 30%. But I ain't going up, maybe 35%. But it is a small part of long-term sustainable results. If you stop at sobriety, you have not got to the underlying issues. And I want to talk about hobbies today. And when I talk about hobbies, I want you to know that I can almost hear some of you, and I've gotten this feedback. Craig, my life is shit. I'm a mess. I am in crisis. And you're talking about hobbies. And in my very structured program, there's an exercise on hobbies right in the beginning. There's an exercise on hobbies right in the middle. And there's an exercise on hobbies right in the end. And I have come to have a deep appreciation for hobbies. I literally consider them life-saving. Because on the other side of this, you're proactively directing and channeling your sexual energy. You are essentially feeding the right wolf. You hopefully know the Feed the Right Wolf story. If not, Google it. Learn that Native American tale. Essentially, there are 2 wolves inside us. Which wolf wins? The one you feed. The one you feed. Hobbies are so important. And I think there's this scale. The greater the mental health issues, the greater the addiction, the more important hobbies are. They're life-saving. They've been life-saving for me. They were life-saving for me. And just a quick story that prompted this, broadcast. About 2 weeks ago, had a panic attack. And I get them. Every once in a while, it's boom. It's like I get punched in the face. I feel like I'm trapped in my body. I have to escape. I've got to, it's like the opposite of being mindful and being present. And one of the things I've learned about panic attacks through the internal family systems model is when I have that feeling, that's my body trying to tell me something. I'm afraid. And one thing that I don't want to do is to thought suppress. You get all these crazy thoughts popping up, because when I thought suppress them, that what you resist persists. So I'm having this panic attack. I'm alone and dark thought, and I needed something to help me emotionally and physically regulate. I needed something that I could use that was and music sometimes does it, but sometimes the panic attack is such where music could be jarring, could be alarming. I need something that is self-soothing. And what I chose to listen to, just to help me refocus, reframe, put me in a good headspace, was a video on disc golf. That's the game like golf, except it's played with frisbees. I don't know if it's definitely not a California thing. It's a sport that's growing in popularity. I absolutely love it. So I'm watching this disc golf broadcast, and it was safe. And anybody who's experienced trauma knows that feeling of unsafety. Okay. I needed something that was going to ground me. And I'm going to tell you later, just in a minute after this story, 5 reasons why hobbies are so important to hopefully shift your thinking on hobbies, to hopefully give you just a path like, hey, this is to prioritize it. That's my goal in this broadcast, is to spark an interest, get you focused on the make a habit part of the equation, get you focused on feeding the right wolf, and highlighting how important hobbies really are. So I'm having this moment, and there was nothing like scary or alarming in the broadcast. It was just two guys sharing their love of the sport and talking about the new season that's coming up. I'm not saying that for you, not at all, but that's what did it for me. And it was in that moment where I just reflected how important hobbies have been for me. Because listen, let's think about it for a second. Your addictive behavior, whatever you're defining as your addiction, is a hobby. It's a hobby, right? Think about it. It's something you're using, you're spending time on it in a pretty regular fashion, pretty structured way. It's a secret hobby. But one of the things I hear again and again, what about your compulsive addictive behavior? What is it doing for you? It's helping people emotionally and physically regulate. It's helping them manage stress, anxiety, modern words for fear. They're using their sexual habits to manage fear. It's providing them with an escape. It's managing their low self-esteem. It's creating this cascade of feel-good chemicals that the body is drowning in. But of course, there's the crash, and then there's the shame crash. It's a hobby. It is a hobby, and it is serving a purpose. It is meeting a need. And when you like do the math, anybody remember those geometry proofs, right? You had one side and you had to do, I don't know what you had to do, but you had to make those two sides equal. They were a proof. This side equaled that side. You proved this fact. And when you make that list of here's the list of the break a habit hobbies, actions that you're performing that constitute your addiction. And then on the other side, here's your make a habit. When you look at the needs that your addictive behavior is meeting, it becomes abundantly clear that you need a hobby. And let me tell you why hobbies are so important. And listen, there's 100 reasons. There's 100 reasons. And I'm certainly aware of hundreds of men who have changed their life doing a number of different things. But hobbies were and are an incredibly important part of their journey to healthy sexuality and a great life. Hobbies gives people, number one, hobbies give people a sense of purpose. We know, as a matter of scientific fact, that people who have purpose live longer. Think about that for a second. Think about how valuable hobbies are as you get older, but not just as you're older. Now, when you're in the grind, when you're hustling and you're working and trying to provide for your family, and this is true for women too. This isn't a sex-specific podcast, although typically I'm talking to men. This is for anybody. Hobbies give you a sense of purpose. Second, hobbies are very mindful, just like your addictive behavior. When you're in that addictive behavior zone, there's nothing more mindful. You are so present, so focused. That's one of the quote unquote positive attributes of the behavior. The rest of the world is out there. It is away from you. You're here. Your hobbies do that too. Hobbies are very mindful activity. When you're in your hobby and doing something that you love and that makes you feel good, it is a very mindful activity. Number 3, hobbies let your inner child play. Hobbies let your inner child play. Right, let me just block some of these people here. One of the challenges of going live. There we go. So where was I? Hobbies gives you a sense of purpose. It is mindful. It lets your inner child play. If you were to go back when you were a child and talk to that little boy and said, hey, when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50, you are going to be a slave to your job. All right. So let me recap. We're talking about hobbies. We're talking about how important they are even at that low point. Even if you can go from low point, usually get caught, rock bottom, low place, and you've got like a teeny tiny bit of hobbies, it's going to have such a big impact. And it is critical to the solution. There is no solution to this problem that does not involve you prioritizing your mind, your body, your spirit, doing something in your life that makes you feel good about yourself. And this is true for the partners that we work with in our partner empowerment group. They've been so hurt, they've been so betrayed. Their lives so often are give to the husband, give to the kids, give to the house, give. And listen, we got partners from executive partners, stay at home partners, all walks of life. But there, within that framework, there is a general principle of giving. And for some of the women that we work with, this rock bottom that they found themselves in because of their husband's behavior is literally the first time in their life, in their grown-up adult life, or certainly in their recent memory, where they're being forced to prioritize their mind, body, and spirit. And they come to realize how important it is to do something for them. So this applies to everybody. And just to recap the points that I was making, habits provide people with purpose. Purpose helps you live longer. I'm going to be doing a broadcast soon on blue zones. Google it. Very important concept, something you should be familiar about. Blue zones are geographic areas throughout the world that have the highest percentage of people living lives, good lives, great lives, over 100. What is unique about those areas? One of the things that's unique about those geographic areas is those people have purpose. Those people have purpose. Within that purpose is a hobby. Hobbies are very mindful. When you are performing your hobbies, you are focused on that to the exclusion of all else. Hobbies let your inner child play. For those, I was tempted to say, for those of us who've experienced trauma, that's critical. For those of us who've experienced pain as children, which is everybody, it's critical. It lets your inner child play. If you went back and talked to yourself when you were 10, 11, 12, 13 and said, hey, let me give you a glimpse of what our life is going to look like in our late 20s, our 30s, our 40s, I think that little child would try to drive his big wheel car off a cliff. He'd be, or she'd be devastated. Like, we're not having fun. We're not creating joy for ourselves. What about that? We love insert hobby that you love. We're doing that, right? No. Why? We're too busy. Doing what? There are 168 hours in the week. It is too busy. And you don't have a hobby? I think that our child version of ourselves would have a heart attack if they knew. Not now, not me now. I've got really strong hobby habits. I'm proud of my hobby habits. Played some disc golf this weekend, read some comic books. Those are the two things that bring me joy. Those are my selfish indulgences, my hobbies, and had a blast this weekend. So hobbies give people purpose. Hobbies are very mindful. Hobbies let your inner child play. Hobbies also provide connection. There's a great quote in the addiction space by Jonathan Harry. He wrote a great TED Talk, Everything I Knew About Addiction is Wrong. Everything I Knew About Addiction is Wrong. You can search that. You'll find his speech. The opposite of connection, the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it is connection. The opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it is connection. Sobriety, like I started this broadcast, is only 10 to 35% of the solution. It is a small part of the solution. It is an important step, but absent healthy sexuality and a great life, which includes hobbies, you will fail. Just how it works. You're going to find some way to numb, cope, and escape. And at least us men, that's something we've been doing since we were children. Those grooves are deep. Those grooves are deep. And it's why healthy sexuality and a great life is absolutely mandatory. So hobbies often provide connection. I'm a bit of an introvert. My wife is definitely an extrovert, Michelle, and hobbies force me to talk to people. Now, I talk to people for a living. In my zone, I am the king of my castle. I'm great at what I do. I love what I do. A lot of people who hear me on this broadcast are surprised that I'm an introvert, but you can present as an extrovert. And remember, I control this environment. This is when I'm with clients, I control that environment. When I do my group call in 30 minutes for my men's program, I am in control of that environment. Strangers, people out and about, very nerve-wracking for me. And so I've got to put myself out there. I've got to be proactive in that effort. And disc golf does that. I have to talk to people. So hobbies often provide connection. The last thing is to where I started, really. To break a habit, you have to make a habit. The cure is the aggressive pursuit of a great life. That's my truth. I have a video on YouTube. You can Google it, The Cure for Sex and Porn Addiction. I've been doing this for 9 years, highly ethical. We had a pop-up phase where I did pop-ups for a little bit, and it just made me uncomfortable. We want our marketing to be honest. We don't want it to be shticky. And I struggled with that clickbait. We struggled with that clickbait title, The Cure for Sex and Porn Addiction. Who doesn't, if you're struggling with this problem, you're definitely going to click on that video. I haven't changed it. I haven't changed it despite that recollection, because the more work I do in this space, the more I learn, the more I grow, the more that I am convinced in the fiber of my being that long-term sustainable results comes through the aggressive pursuit of a great life. Someone who has purpose in their lives, someone who prioritizes sexual health, someone who prioritizes their mind, their body, their spirit. They've got this new math. The new math is when they prioritize their mind, body, and spirit, their life is great. They're in control of their sexual energy. They are meeting their needs proactively. Not that, how are you going to counterbalance those decades of programming? You cannot. To break a habit, you have to make a habit. That means your solution. And whether you're on a healing journey, like many of the incredible partners that we work with in our partner empowerment group, or a healing journey and a healthy sexuality one for the brothers in our different programs, hobbies are a very important part of that solution. Now, if you are in crisis, you may only have a 1%, maybe just an awareness of what hobby you might want to pursue. Maybe, but grow that 1%. Grow that 1%. Too many people in this space are too focused on the break a habit part of the equation. That is the legacy of the porn addiction and sex addiction model. Obviously, this behavior is addictive, but it's important to focus on that make a habit part. And we have Lauren in the chat talking about how hobbies and 12 steps have been a lifesaver for you. Let me know your relationship with hobbies in the chat, and certainly let me know if you have any questions. I know that I would not be where I am at today if I didn't prioritize my mind, my body, and my spirit. That includes hobbies. My behavior, my secret life was a hobby. In fact, when you're in that life, the guys who cross lines and pick up women and solicit prostitutes, they call themselves hobbyists. And I think that's such an apt title, because there's something very selfish about that behavior. It certainly consumes time. It is certainly very mindful. It's certainly feeding. It certainly does have positive attributes in terms of the escape that it provides. And of course, it is causing terrible damage. And if you want to break a habit, you have to make a habit. And please find a hobby. If you can't find a hobby, try a bunch of different ones until you do. Do something that makes you feel good about yourself. Do something that lifts you up. Do something that inspires you, something where you're able to say, because listen, Charles Duhigg, Power of Habit, cue, routine, reward. That's reward. Remember that reward. Atomic Habits, cue, craving, response, reward. Both of those habit cycles from two of the most popular books on habits, Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit, and James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. The result of that habit is a reward. What you have to do is take ownership of that reality, recognizing that your compulsive addictive behavior is serving a purpose and meeting needs, and meet those needs proactively. And having a hobby can be a really important part of your aggressive pursuit of a great life. Thank you so much for listening. Feed the right wolf, embrace your power of choice, and I'll see you next time. Subscribe, please, so you get notifications. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you sign up follow me in any one of those places, you'll get notifications when I go live. That concludes our broadcast for the day. I will see you soon. Embrace your power of choice and feed the right wolf. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. So hopefully this broadcast inspired you to get off technology. Make sure your hobby, if it has something to do with technology, make sure it is you have a non-technology based hobby, because too much screen time is bad for you. Too much screen time causes depression, causes anxiety. Too much screen time, particularly for women, increasing the rate of body dysmorphic disorders and self-esteem. And I'm tempted to start every broadcast as, okay, listen to this, but after this, shut your phone off, get out there and feed that right wolf and do something that does not involve technology. We've had so many people reach out to us struggling with gambling, social media, and of course, pornography, that we are launching a program for people struggling with any form of technology. I will keep you posted as that happens. So we're full steam ahead in our core programs in the sex addiction and porn addiction space. There are too many people out there struggling with other addictions, and there's a lot of guys who maybe aren't at a place in their life to say, porn is having negative consequences in my life, but man, my relationship with technology is a disaster. And we've heard so much from those guys and also the partners too. So anyway, I'll keep you guys posted about that. Really excited to launch that. We're going to be launching that around the time of when my television appearance on the television show Intervention launches. I think it's going to be in June, July, or August. If you are aware, on A&E, there is a television show called Intervention. It's been around for, God, I don't know, 23 seasons, something to that effect, an Emmy award-winning show. They have a sister show on digital addictions, and I was so happy and excited to be able to shoot 3 episodes with that. Those are coming out soon. We'll see some advertising on that, so that's super exciting. But that decision that they made to focus on digital addiction, and just what we hear, like literally almost every day, a new study coming out talking about how important it is for us to put down these phones. I read an article this morning, the rise of the dumb phone. The rise of the dumb phone. Let me tell you something about the dumb phone. I've got the smartphone. I am so tempted. I've got so many reasons. My business, I communicate with clients, et cetera, 50 million reasons. Know this. Every client who got rid of their smartphone and switched to a dumb phone or a dumber phone is smarter because of it. Every single one. There's been 5 that come to mind very quickly. I'm like, boom, these guys, they love it. They love it. They love it. They love it. The phone is sucking the life out of us. It's going to be very interesting when I get to the old age home to see how our relationship with technology is going to evolve. And eventually we're going to be gone. Those of us who remember what it was like before cell phones, before technology, before having access to every single bit of information, we know it's messing up our kids. We know we're all spending too much screen time per day. So if that's you and you connect with this message, please do start. Just like healthy sexuality is the solution, a healthy relationship with technology is the solution. And please feel free to let me know in the chat, do you have a healthy relationship with technology in general? Forget about porn, forget about escorts, forget about partner side, the forensic audit that goes through the searching, and it's a number of the women have come to us like the equivalent of a computer engineers because they've gotten so good at sleuthing and snooping. So putting that aspect of the technology aside, do you have a healthy relationship with technology? More and more people are answering that question. No, I'm able to invite guests to this broadcast. If anybody's interested in coming on and asking questions, and we'd have to figure that out, but I think that would be a lot of fun. I see a lot of people have guests on their show. I would love that. If anyone's interested on being a guest, let me know. I'd probably shoot that one offline rather than stream it. But hey, why not? Why not? I'm trying to control and manage every variable. That's impossible. I can't do that. So Rubber Ducky notes in the chat, he's been clean for almost 2 years and still doesn't want sex. What the heck? I can't answer that question. There's too much, and certainly complicated answer, complicated issues. It is almost 9 years, 1,000 clients, 27 countries. Not one of them primarily had a sexual issue. It's always the symptom. And because it's always the symptom, what happens is people, hey, I've been clean for 2 years, and this Rubber Ducky may have absolutely nothing to do with you. I'm generalizing here, so please. But one would imagine in a situation like that, where there's a sexless marriage for 2 years, that there are deeper underlying issues that are driving that disconnect. The issue has never been, well, certainly the behavior, the addiction contributed to that. There were always deeper underlying issues, and I hope you're able to find the help that you need to address those deeper underlying issues. And again, I'm generalizing here, but I've got a philosophy that energy has to go somewhere. That energy has to go somewhere. And what we've learned and what science tells us, when that energy goes towards husband and wife, those are usually the folks that I'm working with. When that energy is going in that direction, everybody's happy, everybody's healthy. Sexual health is mental health, sexual health is physical health, and sexual health for some people can be spiritual health. So I wish you the best in trying to solve that problem. I would strongly encourage you to examine that problem through a non-addiction lens. I would throw those words out, my vocabulary, and search for people who can help. And that's probably not someone in the sex addiction space. I'm so sorry that you're experiencing that. Yeah, that's the tough thing with questions. It's easy to generalize, and it is very important to be abundantly clear that I'm not giving you advice. I'm responding to text in a general way based upon my observations, but it's very important to make sure you're getting local help, a therapist, a coach, someone who can help you address these underlying issues. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Enjoyed this conversation. Look forward to doing it again. Subscribe so you get notified. And that's it. Have a great day and have a great week. Bye, everybody.